All right, we're back here at Holy Smoke Cigars in East Ridge, Tennessee. We had to take a break for a minute because I'm pretty old and I had to pee.
Of course, that's a completely different set of paperwork.
Thank you to producer Bill for that. So Chris, let's
Yes.
talk about first cigar stories. You go first. I've got mine.
Oh man, so mine was interesting and probably a lot different than I would say everybody else's ever, which I'm sure comes as a surprise.
Oh, I'm shocked.
But I was in college and played ball, played sports, and came from obviously just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, right where smoking is taboo. So you can't smoke. I mean, that'll ruin your lungs and give you cancer at age 3.
Seems silly. It's close to the Smokies.
Right, you would think. No, we still frown on it. So I hadn't smoked. Well, all of my roommates did, and so they'd get together and they'd hang out, smoke a cigar while I'm sitting at the house by myself, going, "Well, isn't this fun?" So that finally I'm on the phone with my girlfriend at the time, and we're going back and forth. We had a pretty significant argument. And
this is not Amy. This is not your wife.
Not Amy. No, not.
Okay.
No,
this
not
is
at all.
one of the many other girlfriends you had.
The girlfriend, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we were out there. I know. I get it. So historical accuracy is important. So we've gotten into it. It's nasty. It's a knockdown drag out. And so I walk back out and I look at my roommates and I went, "All right, guys, let's go get a cigar." And you say, "Well, why would you go get a cigar?" She hated cigars. Like, there was nothing that she despised more
Best
than smoking.
reason
And I was like, let's get back at her. So my roommate, one of them, grabbed me through. He played baseball. He threw me over his shoulder and ran me out to the car and threw me in the back seat before I could say no. So we go down, and I allowed my tobacconist to. My tobacconist sounds so professional. The guy at the shop to pick out a cigar for me, and so he looked at me. He said, "Well, what would you like?" I said, "Well, I want something spicy and good." And he goes, "Okay." And so I wound up with a Fuente Chateau Sun-Grown. So that was the first cigar I ever smoked. We get back, I cut it, I light it, and we're sitting out at the house. We're having a great time. And I loved everything that was going on. The conversation with my roommates, the idea that it's Friday, Saturday night, and we don't have school the next day, so we're just hanging out, unwinding. And my phone rings, and it's my girlfriend. And I pick it up, and I call her by name, and I say, "Hey, what's up?" And she said, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, I know, because I'm amazing, and you want to apologize and make things right. And I get it. I do. But I didn't have a whole lot of time for it. And I said, "Wait, what are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, well, I'm calling to apologize." And I said, "I'm smoking a cigar. I'll call you back." Click. And through my phone, and all my buddies are fist bumping, high-fiving. We're having a great time. And so I did. I finished the cigar down to the nub. And I enjoyed everything about it. I mean, the taste, the flavor, the camaraderie, the setting, the scene, everything about it was so special and so important that we went back the next day and the next until I got employed. And which in order to, a lot of people don't know this, the only thing that you have to do in order to get a job at a cigar shop, evidently, is come in every day, spend a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money sitting on somebody's couch,
Yep.
and at some point in time, they get bored seeing you. They're like, "Oh, you want to work? I don't have to."
It
And you
would
go,
work
"Okay,
here."
cool." Right? So yeah, but mine was because I got mad at a girlfriend that didn't like cigars, and it turns out I did.
Man.
And 25 years later, here we are. So thank you to who you are. So
Life is good.
sincerely appreciate it. Yes.
Well, my first cigar story comes from a period way earlier than yours. I grew up in a house where no one smoked. My parents didn't hang out with anyone to smoke. They didn't smoke cigarettes. They weren't cigar smokers. I was never around anybody who smoked, except, back then in public, people smoked all the time. I was at the Dixie Youth Ball Fields in Hickson, Tennessee, which is not far from here. I was 8 years old. And my team had already played. we were there to watch the next game. I think my dad was probably in the stands somewhere. And I was standing behind the dugout on the first base side with a friend of mine. And to this day, I cannot remember who it was. I don't remember the kid, don't remember his name. I just remember I had a buddy there. And we're kind of
ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not gay, but he is.
See, there you go.
So we're hanging on the fence and watching the ball game, and there's a man standing there, and I look up at him, and he gets a cigar out of his pocket, and I have no idea what it was. No, it was probably Tampa or something. Who knows? But he gets the cigar out and lights it, and he takes a couple of pulls off of it, and he just drops it. And as an 8-year-old, curious about what this smoking thing is, I go, huh. And I looked around, and I reached down, and I literally picked up the cigar like off the ground, and I cupped it under my hand like this. And I just went, I looked at my buddy. I said, come on. And he said, what? I said, just follow me. And so I walked around, and I went behind the bleachers and underneath the bleachers. Now, no one was going to notice the smell of smoke back there because everybody in the bleachers is smoking. Everybody that smokes is smoking the bleachers. So I go back there, and I knocked his saliva off and as much sand off of it as I could get, and except it was lit.
It was lit. Yeah.
Boy, that story would be so much better if my cigar was still
That
burning.
worked out great.
So anyway, I take
Beautiful
a couple
visual.
of pulls on it, and my buddy is standing there, and he looks at me, and he says, you're going to get sick. And I said, no, I'm not. And I kept smoking that cigar. And I think I smoked the whole thing, and I don't know how long it took, maybe 15, 20 minutes, because it wasn't a big cigar. I smoked that cigar, and when I got through with it, I thought, man, I like that. I mean, I really like that.
Right.
And my buddy's still standing there going, are you sick yet? And I said, I'm telling you, I'm not going to get sick. Well, by the time I got in junior high school, I was buying cigars. I don't know if you remember the blueberry tippalettes. They were like
I don't,
a
but
Swisher.
you got to remember, I wasn't alive in the 20s, so I don't remember the.
Well, that hurt. Well, okay, to be fair.
I'm sorry. The Roaring 20s.
They were roaring.
Yeah.
It was more like the roaring 60s. And back then, a kid like me could walk into the drugstore and buy a box of cigars because they just assumed you were buying them for your
Right,
dad.
of course.
Nobody stopped you. So I started buying these little boxes that had either four or five cigars, and they had plastic tips on them, and they were called blueberry tippalettes. And I started buying those in junior high. Well, I smoked those things all the way through junior high and high school.
Right.
And then I discovered good cigars. Maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 years after I got out of high school, I was still smoking the crap that you buy at the drugstore back then. But I did discover really good cigars, and it was because of that first it was a thrilling revelation to me to discover, man, this is really cool. I can't believe my parents are missing this.
Right. There you go. Well, and it's interesting that you say that. I mean, again, you talk about going in and buying something that we would consider budget, right? Or even flavored or whatever the case may be. To go from there and to continue to elevate, everything has its place in the industry.
Yeah.
It's such a unique industry. Again, every cigar has its place. Well, whether it be something that's $2 just to get you through the day. Mm-hmm. Hey, look, I was fishing and didn't care if I dropped it in the water.
Yeah.
Or if it's $100 and you're sitting down after a steak dinner just to unwind and really, really celebrate and enjoy. Everything has its place in this industry.
Yep. I've got a guy that comes in here once or twice a week, and I honestly, I'm ashamed to admit this, I do not know his name. As you well know, and you're good at this too. I try to learn everybody's name.
Sure.
You try to get to know your customers, and every now and then I'll have someone come in here, and he's the 5th time in, and I go, man, I'm sorry, but tell me your name again. And I'm usually pretty good at remembering those guys' names, but this one particular guy comes in. He's very quiet, very low key. He comes in the morning, and he goes back, and he gets 5 to 10 of my, quote, budget cigars.
Sure.
He gets the cigars that are about $5 or $6, and they're actually really, really good cigars. And then he gets one good cigar. every single time. So he did that about the fourth or fifth time. I said, okay, I'm curious. What's with this ratio? He said, these are my everyday smokes.
Sure.
He said, that cigar is when I get through at the end of the day and I just want to sit down and really enjoy something, and I'll have a beer with it or whatever. So everything does have its place. It really does.
And by the way, that guy's name is Bill. He's your producer. Yeah, he's sitting literally across the table.
It's that guy. He's the guy that made the ridiculous comment about the paperwork in the restroom.
I'm sitting right here.
And now you know his name.
I've been wondering what his name was.
We'll write it on your hand. It'll be great.
You'd think I would have learned his name before I gave him a key to the shop. But we're rather trusting around here.
Yes.
I've got another story for you.
Please share.
Well, I mentioned I was smoking the blueberry tippalettes all through high school. I was either a junior or a senior in high school. I believe I was a junior in high school. And, of course, I tried to hide the fact from my mom and dad that I smoked. Now, my mom was rather naive. I don't think Mom ever knew that I smoked until well after I got out of high school. Dad, on the other hand, knew everything that I ever did. He just didn't tell me. And so I'm sure my dad knew that I was smoking. He just didn't say anything about it. Well, I got home from school one day. It was very cold, and Dad had cut a tree down that lightning had hit or something. It had died, and the tree was about 100 feet from the back door of our house. Dad had cut this tree down and had cut it up in logs that were about 6 or 7 feet long. And I came in from school, or came in from work actually after school, and he said, Dennis, I need your help. He said, I've cut this tree up, but he said, it's so cold out there, I want to carry those 6 or 7 foot logs over next to the house to where I can cut it up for firewood and be blocked from the wind. And I said, sure. So I go out, and I've got my jacket on, and my blueberry tippalettes are down in the pocket. And we would squat down and pick up the log. He'd get one end, I'd get the other end, and we'd walk across the yard, and we'd drop it at the house. I don't remember how many, there's probably 10 or 12 of these things. We go to get the last one, and I squat down, and when I did, my jacket kind of propped up on my legs or whatever, and that box of blueberry tippalettes fell out on the ground. And I look down, and I see them, and I pick them up, and I look at Dad, and he's not acting like he's noticed. So we carry the log over against the house, and we drop it. And he goes, thanks, I appreciate your help. I said, that's all you need? He said, yeah. And I go to reach for the back door, and as I reached out, Dad says, aren't you going to pick up your cigars?
Oh, nice.
So I hang my head, and I go walking across the backyard, and I'm thinking, oh, crap, here it comes. And I go out there and I pick up cigars, and I put them in my pocket, and I walk back over to the house, and Dad's getting ready to crank his chainsaw. He doesn't say anything, and I walk inside. And I said, okay, he's making me sweat this. He's going to wait till he comes inside. So he cuts up all the firewood, and 30 or 45 minutes later, he comes inside, and I'm sitting there watching television with my mom, and I'm thinking, well, here it comes. Dad never mentioned it. Never, ever brought it up. I meant to ask him this years ago before my dad passed. Do you remember the story about the cigars falling out? But, it occurred to me many years later. I was probably in my 30s, and I went, dang, he already knew I smoked. He just wasn't going to make me live through it.